Upper90studios.com.
Fantasy Premier League tips and sheets. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today, the wild card is gone. Did I really sell 2 Liverpool defenders for 2 Manchester United defenders? I'm going to show you my complete wildcard strategy. If you had a bad week, you're not alone. You're going to see all my mistakes and how to correct them with the transfer plan for game week 4. All the top FPL tips to give you a competitive advantage. So what can PVA teach us about wildcard transfers? If you sold Salah for Mane, or you captained Kane, or maybe you did what I did and sold PVA, who is now the highest scoring defender in the game, do not become emotionally attached to your players and your decisions. You have to take a step back and look at your team like a manager. Sometimes the manager has to swallow his pride and do what's best for the team, even if it means getting Salah back, or PVA. I don't want PVA back at this moment, but I can remember a similar situation a few years ago when I sold Marcos Alonso after he had a slow start to the season. Then he scored 17 points the next game. You know what I did? I swallowed my pride and I brought him back. Ego is the biggest enemy in fantasy, and that's one of my goals for this video. I'm going to keep my ego in check and show you all the wildcard mistakes I made. Then I'm going to make a transfer plan to correct them. Before I show you how my players did game week 3, I want to talk wildcard strategy. Did I really use my wildcard to sell 2 Liverpool defenders for 2 Manchester United defenders? The first reason for selling 2 Liverpool defenders was so I could afford 2 Liverpool attackers. I've been saying since preseason that I wish I had 2 Liverpool attackers, but in the beginning, 2 defenders offered better value. One of my objectives with the wildcard was to shift the investment from the defense to the attack. I wanted to be ahead of the curve. How long are managers going to hold on to Van Dijk? Alexander-Arnold and Robertson had about 1,000 crosses against Arsenal. Of course they have a higher scoring potential than United defenders. But when their crosses find their mark, who's going to be at the receiving end? I sold 2 Liverpool defenders so I could afford Salah and Mane. The second reason why I sold Liverpool defenders was when I considered the worst case scenario with the wildcard, and that was if Salah and Pukki failed game week 3. Salah was coming off a blank game week 2, and his price was getting closer to a drop. He was the most sold player with 400,000 transfers out. I was sweating at halftime against Arsenal. Salah had 45 minutes to save my wildcard. Pukki was a different situation. His price had skyrocketed, but a blank against Chelsea would have sent it crashing right back down. So I came up with 2 escape plans in case Salah and Pukki blanked, and here's what they look like. The one on the left had Salah out for De Bruyne and a cheap forward out for Kane. The one on the right had Salah out for KDB and Pukki out for Kane. If the wildcard went horribly wrong, I was set to recover with a -4 hit. De Bruyne and Kane were threats to my rank, so I prepared against them by leaving extra money in the bank, 1.7 million. In 12 seasons playing FPL, I've never let anywhere near this much amount in the bank on a wildcard. So look at what happens to my funds when I have Van Dijk instead of Maguire. Not even close. I'm off by 0.6 million. This is a real screenshot, exactly what I was thinking before I decided on Van Dijk versus Maguire. Had I gone for Van Dijk, then Salah and Pukki blanked, while Kane and De Bruyne scored, I would have been in real trouble. And that's why my bench is that all-star cast of 4 million and 4.5 million players. In fact, I should have probably started them because they might have done better. Normally, I would have used all the funds to maximize the strength of my starting 11, but I wanted to try something new. I like to experiment with new strategies every season because even if I get red arrows, I'm learning, and I'm going to be more prepared the next time I face these obstacles. The third reason why I landed on United defenders was because I searched for value on defense, and the best solution was Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire, and I stand by that. If you look at their points alone, compared to Liverpool, Man City, and Tottenham, nobody kept clean sheets game week 3. But I'm looking at performances, not just points. Those Crystal Palace goals came completely against the run of play. They could barely get out of their own half until they scored. I was stunned when IU scored, completely out of nowhere. And it was the same for United against Wolves, who didn't have a single shot in the first half until that goal that beat De Gea in the second half. Then I watched Liverpool against Arsenal. I had this feeling like any time Pepe pushed into Liverpool's defense, he was going to score. Bournemouth, they had so many chances to score against Man City, and I just didn't feel that when Crystal Palace had the ball against United. That's what I saw. Everyone reads the game differently. It's not just about points in fantasy. So I saw a stat making the rounds on Twitter that United have kept just 1 clean sheet in their last 18 games. But that was before Maguire and Wan-Bissaka. A fair defensive stat is United have kept 1 clean sheet in 3 games this season, and that clean sheet came against Chelsea. How many clean sheets have Man City and Liverpool kept this season? How much did their defenders cost? so it wasn't a straight swap from Liverpool defenders to United defenders. I went on the attack first with my wildcard. One advantage was the timing with the price changes. I avoided price drops on Sigurdsson, Perez, Wilson, and King. I got in on price rises for Pukki and others. Price changes aren't everything, but they are a factor. If team value was the most important, I would have kept De Bruyne over Salah, but I chose Salah because he had the higher scoring potential. There's nothing wrong with keeping an eye on prices in the transfer market. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty about your strategy. Let's look at the rest of the wildcard. Matt Ryan, 1 point. At home, while Pope was away at Wolves. So what happens? Red card in the first half for Brighton. Going away from the experts template was my biggest concern with the wildcard. Should I have gone for Pope? Pope was always the safer option because we know the Elite 64 ownership stats. Pope is now at 66% ownership with the experts. Only 4 players have higher ownership in Elite 64 League. I was lucky that Jimenez scored a penalty at 90+7 to wipe out Burnley's clean sheet. Looking back now, I think I was way too aggressive with my wildcard, and I'm only just starting on the goalkeeper. Luka Digne. Everton were basically down to 7 to 8 players. Andre Gomes, Schneiderlin, Sigurdsson, and Calvert-Lewin had an absolute nightmare. There is a positive for Digne, and that's when Iwobi and Keane came on as subs. They had an immediate impact. Iwobi hit the post, and Keane should have had an assist to Walcott. If they start the next game, Digne's scoring potential should increase. Lundstrom, I haven't watched this game yet, so I can't give a proper assessment. Midfielders, I'm going to start with the positives. Mo Salah, 15 points. One reason to keep Salah was our fixture difficulty cheat sheet, which showed green for Liverpool attackers at home against Arsenal. They also conceded the most away penalties last season. Salah scored his first goal from a penalty. Our fixture cheat sheet, the attackers version, also helped decide between Salah, Mane versus Kane. Liverpool's fixture showed green for their attackers. Spurs had red. Sterling, 16 points, captain. As soon as I realized he was playing Bournemouth, I made him captain. I never looked at it again. 11 goals in 10 games against Bournemouth, but it could have been more. Sadio Mane, 3 points. He and Firmino had chances, but this was Salah's day. Now for the biggest mistake I made on this wildcard, and that is Dani Ceballos. I took a risk on a differential, and it backfired. Ceballos went from a 10 out of 10 performance in the previous game to a 1 out of 10. He was lucky to make it to 60 minutes. He was a liability defensively, he gave the ball away in dangerous areas, and he never got involved in the attack. But now I'm worried that he might not even start the next game, especially because Torreira came on as a sub and scored. Some of you tried to warn me, but there was only so much time to research. One of my concerns with this early wildcard is I had to make certain decisions with limited information. I knew that going in, and Ceballos was my biggest mistake, so now it's about making a plan to correct it. Martial, 5 points. I could talk all day about the refereeing decisions that didn't go his way, but he deserved more than 5 points. Now he could be injured though, and I don't have a wild card. The players I replaced were Sigurdsson and Ayoze Perez. Gylfi was lucky to make it to 60 minutes, and Perez, I haven't watched his game yet, so I can't comment on his performance. Even though Ceballos was a mistake, avoiding price drops on these players, that helped soften the blow. Pukki, 11 points. Goal and an assist, ice in his veins. But I was nervous. He had to score on this wild card because as quickly as his price went up, it could have just as easily come crashing down. Now we know who scored and who blanked. I can use the extra funds to make minor corrections like Ceballos, or I can save that money to counter wildcards game week 4, or I can go even bigger. So what is the transfer plan? I'm going to start with Ceballos. I'm going to make that correction with 1 transfer, no hit, nice and clean. Ceballos for Mason Mount. It looked like a dead leg for Mount. He took a knee to the back of the calf. Lampard said it wasn't a muscle strain, which is good. That's happened to me maybe twice when I played. The muscle is completely stuck. It's impossible to keep playing on it. Then after a day or two, it's like nothing happened. I'm not an injury expert though, so I'm only telling you my transfer plan. Your team could have other priorities. That's Ceballos, but now what if Martial is injured? If I go cheaper, say McGinn, that's only a -4 transfer hit. No problem. If I go more expensive, I have to free up funds by making yet another cut to the defense, which is already weak. I don't want to sell Wan-Bissaka or Maguire. I want to wait as long as possible with Martial before making this decision, even if it means losing out on price changes. One reason is that 14 Premier League teams are playing midweek, before Game Week 4. I'm going to include the full list on the Game Week 4 blog post at upper90studios.com. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of giving you my top picks for Game Week 4, I'm just going to show you my watch list. And the reason is because I don't have time. I have about 700 emails that I have to go through. I feel so bad. If you guys are listening, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to get to them as soon as I can. So that's going to be a wrap for today. Stay tuned for my next video. If you like my music, all my songs are free to download on the website. See the link in the description. Be sure to follow at Upper90 Studios on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, where you get an inside scoop before YouTube. And if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe and turn on your post notifications, because this season is going to be incredible. Don't forget to subscribe to our email list and get your free fixture difficulty cheat sheet. Click the Fantasy Premier League tab at Upper90Studios.com. If you're on a computer, it's at the top right of the page. If you're on the phone, it's at the bottom. Thanks for watching. See you soon.